All right. All right. We hope that you all have had a wonderful lunch. And as we get started with the next portion of our event today, we just wanted to let everyone know that this event is being recorded and streamed for those who are attending virtually. We wanted to make sure as many folks were able to join us in as many ways as possible. So we did want to share with you all a little bit about the Women's Giving Circle for those of you who are new to it. Last year, the Georgia College Foundation and the Women's Center partnered together to establish the Women's Giving Circle. A giving circle is formed when individuals come together and pool their dollars, decide where to give, and learn together about their community, its needs, its issues, and philanthropy. The mission of this group is to amplify the power of our collaborative philanthropic efforts to help support those areas of need across campus, while simultaneously building community and transforming the lives of the students that we have here on campus. To do this, we ask members to contribute an annual gift to the fund, and then we gather, much as we are today, to determine where those collective dollars can be best spent and granted. By motivating and inspiring women as leaders, donors, and advocates, we can transform women's giving to create an even greater impact across our community. To date, our members have pooled their donations to raise about $4,500, and we currently have around 40 members, which we're pretty proud of for the last year. This year, we have increased what the group is able to grant through our awarding process, and we've had 4 proposals submitted for funding, and we will go over them in just a couple of minutes. To give you all a recap of what we were able to accomplish during this last funding cycle, our group voted last fall to send students to the Creating Change Conference, which is an annual LGBTQ+ leadership conference, national conference. Because it was virtual, we were able to send more students than we've ever been able to send before, and that was a direct result of you all's gifts and giving. We also helped to fund some new materials and supplies for the Clothesline Project, which you all, if you're on campus, probably just saw last week on campus, which is one of our annual awareness events to give voice to survivors of sexual assault, dating, domestic violence, and stalking, and other forms of power-based interpersonal violence. I'm going to pass it over to Caroline for the next part.
All right, everyone. Just wanted to give a little update on how you're going to receive the voting form and what areas are on the proposals this year. So for those who have made an annual gift this calendar year, you will receive an email later today. And if we just ask if you could try to have your votes in by next Wednesday, that would be wonderful. So like Jen said, this voting cycle, we have 4 proposals. The Creating Change Conference again, and the National Conference for College Women's Student Leaders are both on the form, as well as the Whistling Hens, which focuses on creating an equitable, sustainable future for women composers. So the Whistling Hens is a chamber music ensemble that was founded by soprano Jennifer Pisa-Pick and clarinist Natalie Groom to combat the inequality female composers face in the arts by performing and commissioning music by women. Women composers are really underrepresented in programming, unrecorded in professional settings, and unacknowledged on the global stage for their excellence, leading to centuries of economic, academic, and networking disparities compared to their male peers. So the key output of this project is an album of music by women composers that can be distributed both as hard copy CDs and online via streaming platforms. So the Women's Giving Circle grant will support Whistling Hens in their dedication to the advancement of women composers through their recording project. In addition to this project, we're also asking for funding for the Menstruation Stations, which is a new campus-wide program which if y'all have visited some of the restrooms on campus, you will see that this program provides free menstrual products for all GC students through a partnership between the Women's Center and the Student Government Association. Each restroom across campus has a box full of pads and tampons, which are free to students and faculty and staff in need. And it also, if a student needs additional help, there is a number to contact and they can receive that. And there will be more information on the form that you'll receive later that will have like specifics on how much each project is asking, how much that you think could be awarded. So there will be more information to come, but that's just a brief overview. Our goal is to fund all opportunities and projects presented to us. And an even bigger goal of us is to hopefully someday start an annual scholarship or even endowed scholarship for students from this group. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now, reach out to us at any point, and we can answer those questions. So if we have any questions, let us know. Anyone? Going once, going twice. All right, well, Jen is now going to introduce our amazing panelists here. So here you go.
Absolutely, and we would love for you all to come on up and take a seat here at the front, our panelists. So all of these panelists are alumni of our beautiful campus. They have been here and been students and represent a wide variety of backgrounds and programs and those sorts of things. So Jennifer Pollard is the executive director of the Lockerly Arboretum here in Milledgeville. Jennifer received her Bachelor of Arts in History from Georgia College in 1995 and became executive director of Lockerly in January of 2017. Mrs. Pollard has spent 20 years in nonprofits focusing on fundraising, strategic planning, and nonprofit management. She has worked in house museums such as Orchard House, home of the Alcotts in Concord, Massachusetts, as well as environmental organizations like Eastern Shore Land Conservancy on Maryland's Eastern Shore. She was awarded the Certified Fundraising Executive status in 2008, and she is a 2011 graduate of the National Conservation Leadership Institute. I'm glad to have you here. Carly Schulte is a native of Atlanta, but considers herself a local after spending 19 years, her entire adult life, as a Milledgeville resident. She is a graduate of Georgia College with a bachelor's degree in marketing, and Carly serves as the Main Street Downtown Development Authority Executive Director for our city of Milledgeville. Under Carly's direction, the program has been nationally recognized as a Great American Main Street by the National Main Street Center, a subsidiary of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Carly was married in 2006 to husband John Paul, and they have two sweet and wild boys, and they are very sweet. I can attest to this. Ethan, who is 12 years old, and Barrett Bear, who is 6. Rina Puri is the owner of Digital Chicks Media. Rina received her MBA from Georgia College in 2007, and she has put her degree to good use, working mostly for nonprofits during the last 15 years. Her work on events and with volunteers has helped build the foundation for Digital Chicks Media by using social media to mobilize people for a good cause. In 2016, Rina started a lifestyle fashion blog called chicksandsalsa.com, where she uses social media to promote local businesses. So be sure to check that out. And then Kristen Oja is the founder of Stat Wellness. Kristen obtained 3 degrees from Georgia College, including her Bachelor of Science in Nursing, a Master's of Science in Nursing, and with a family nurse practitioner focus, and then also her Doctor of Nursing Practice. Kristen is also an entrepreneur, functional and lifestyle medicine guru, personal trainer, group fitness instructor, and lover of everything health and wellness. Kristen founded Stat Wellness, which stands for Strength to Achieve Total Wellness to help transform medicine. At Stat Wellness, the goal is to partner with each patient and help them not only look their best, but to feel their best by combining the best practices of medicine and movement. Please help me give a warm welcome to these wonderful women.
All right. Thank you all for being here again today. We'll go ahead and get started with the questions. So we'll start with Carly for this first one, kind of go down the line, and then maybe reverse the order, mix it up a little bit so we're not just going every single person. All right. So first question. Best piece of career advice you have received and is worth sharing?
They gave us these. Can y'all hear me, I guess?
They
gave
you
us
can,
these questions.
sorry, you can
Do I have
move
to get
that
it?
a little bit.
Do I move it? Or do I take it out? Take it out. Ooh, I don't want to fling it.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, so they gave us these questions, so I'm glad that we had some time to prepare. For me, both of my things are from my father, who passed last year from cancer, but he always talked to me about just following my dreams and trying to be the best I can at whatever job I have. And as a woman, he always said, ask for more money, because he was always ahead of, like a boss in all of his positions as a father. So he always said, ask for more money, because they're going to try and give you way less than men, because that happens in his profession. So I would definitely say that that's helped me in my jobs. And then also take your lunch break. No one notices if you don't. So take your hour, 30 minutes that you get. It's good for your soul and your mind, and no one notices when you don't do it.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to be up here with all of you. Contributed so much. But I think after I had my girls and I was trying to decide what I was going to do after sitting at home with them for a few years, someone had told me to always listen to the voice in the back of your head. And I think I have 5 aunts, 3 sisters, 2 daughters. And I think we are not unidimensional. We're not defined by any one thing that we do, whether it's our career or I'm a mom or I'm a librarian. There's just so many things. But I do find universally that there is something in the back of our minds that we want to do. And after talking to this group of ladies and my friends, in particular, make time for a side gig for your passions. I feel like you'll always feel a little bit off balance if you try to box yourself in and just ignore it or suppress it. You will always find time for the things that you want to do, and you will get out what you put in. And I am still on the start of that journey, but I did hear years ago that I will never be at the end, and I kind of like that. I kind of like that open book of possibilities that comes with going with the tide. So when you have the opportunity, say yes, and always just listen to that voice in the back of your mind.
Very smart. Gosh, I'm in good company here up here today. Mine are rather simple, and similar to yours. Number 1 is trust your gut. And then the second one was an older woman, first woman I ever worked for when I graduated from Georgia College, who told me, when you're wrong, admit it, and when you're right, shut up.
That's great advice. More even outside of work. Great advice. So mine is, if you're no longer passionate about what you're doing, it's time to move on. I think that is something really important in any career that you're in. You have to have passion. We spend so much time at work, and kind of piggybacking on that is it's also never too late to change careers. And so I know a lot of people, you maybe went through school to go one path and it's just not serving you anymore, and you're not able to put your heart into it. And it's never too late to come back to Georgia College and get a new degree and make the life you want. So if you're not passionate, it's time to move on.
Awesome. Those are all really great. Thank you. And if you want to keep that, we'll just start with you, Kristen. Yeah, switch up the order a little bit. All right, next question. How do you foster leadership in other women?
So that's a great question. My company is 90% female. So we are a female-run, operated business. Actually, our male employees are minorities, which is fun. And so to us, the biggest thing we do is really mentorship. So we try to place women with other women within our Stout Wellness company, which is about 20 employees, and have quarterly or monthly meetings. I think one of the best ways to lead women is to spend time with women and to mentor. So I think as a company, one of the biggest things we do is mentorship. And then that's something that I do even outside of STAT as well. So I try to always have a mentee, and then I have always had a mentor in all phases of my life, which I think is super important in leadership.
Absolutely agree. And the only thing I would tack on to that is don't be territorial. We're all in this together. And, so many of us, women, we're not always very nice to each other. But at the end of the day, we're all working towards something that is bigger and better than ourselves. So be nice to each other.
Yeah, I love that. I think it comes down to listening and learning what makes people tick. If you can learn what's going to motivate someone, you can find a better way to integrate them into what you're trying to do or into what they want to do. And I think if you can help someone get to where they want to go and get to where you're trying to go at the same time, that's a winning strategy. And I think particularly with women, and something that I like about what I do is I personally, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I seek flexibility. And if I give that same grace to my clients, it works. It works for both of us. If they can work around me, then I can work around them. And this seems to work well. And so I think listening and learning what is that thing that they are looking for and finding a way to integrate that into what you're trying to do is a great way to foster leadership.
All those answers are really good. In my profession, it's probably 98% women. So we do have a mentor program with Georgia Main Street and for the state, and I've participated in that. And I think it really helps to have someone new that I can help, but also I always feel that I learned from them as well. And so just being encouraging, I think, is one of the biggest things. And never assume a woman can't do a job, no matter what it is big to me too.
Great advice. If you guys, just want to give it to Rina.
Oh, okay.
All right. Can you talk a little about equity for women in the workplace, like salaries, promotions, recognition, things like that?
I wish I had more to say on this. I worked for an adoption agency for a number of years. I work with cervical cancer advocates, and now I work with my clients, and with my blog, I'm in a very female-dominated space, and I'm grateful for that. So I have been insulated, but in that same regard, I have found a lot of camaraderie when we share rates, we share ideas, we share contacts, and that was something I didn't necessarily expect. I don't know, maybe it was like the high schooler in me that was worried that we wouldn't do that, but I think we're at a certain stage in life and in our career and in society where we realize we are stronger together, and if we can help each other. But in that regard, I feel a little bit insulated from disparities in the workplace in that fashion.
And I agree with Rina. I feel a bit insulated as well. I'm a career nonprofit employee, and one of the hallmarks of being a good nonprofit is that you are completely and totally transparent in your financials. So it's never been a secret what I make, what my coworkers make, whatever. So nonprofits are a little odd. So I actually don't feel like I'm the best person to be answering this question. So I'm going to pass it on.
So I kind of hate gender biases, but there is some psychology and research around this that I'll share briefly, is that men are better at asking for more money than women. This has been shown in multiple studies. And what's really interesting when they've assessed why that happens, it's because women will make sure that they're 100% qualified for a position before they'll ask for more, where men are okay if they're 60% qualified to apply for the job and get the job and ask for more money. And so I just find that really interesting. When a woman puts herself out there or asks for more money, she 100% deserves that, right? So the psychology behind all that is really interesting. And as a female-run business, and we're mainly women, there's a few things that I've done, whether it's right or wrong, but I don't negotiate with my employees. And they all know that. So I have conversations with everybody before I hire them. What is most important to you in a contract? And I want to know, is it flexibility? Is it PTO? Is it, getting off at 3 p.m. every day and you prefer to start your day at 7? So I learn what's most important to them, and then I give them my best offer, and I tell them, there's no room for negotiation. So male, female, doesn't matter. It's not who can bring the better negotiating game, and that's how we keep equality at work for us.
Well, mine was to negotiate, as I mentioned before, but obviously you can't in certain situations. But I think that what you're doing is still a negotiation for them by asking what it's more of an equal negotiation than a lot of employers do offer. But also just show up and be confident, and then take compliments and actually believe them. I think it's easy to, wait till you're 100% to do something, or wait till you know exactly what you're talking about before you go to the next step, or think you can achieve the next certification or whatever, always just remember that you can be confident, and I mean, sometimes you can fake it and then it works out. So just, be confident and believe in what people are saying to you about your work, and try to remember that for yourself.
Great, thank you guys. As a female leader, what has been the most significant barrier in your career?
My biggest barrier in my career has probably been myself. Just navigating life, and allowing other people to dictate my future for me. But then I read a quote one time that helped. It actually, and I highly recommend, if you haven't read Tina Fey's Bossy Pants, you have to read it. I read it every year because I learn something new from it every year. So she says in her book, ask yourself, is this person between me and what I want to do? And if the answer is no, ignore it and move on. And your energy is better used doing your work and outpacing people that way. Then when you're in charge, don't hire the people that were jerks to you. So read that book.
Making a mental note. My biggest barrier has absolutely been getting funding. I don't know if you guys are aware of some more statistics, but only 2% of VC funding goes to females. 98% goes to males. That statistic's a little bit higher if it's a female and male run company combined, but female only 2% of VC funding goes to them. And I've been in rooms with lots of men telling me no over and over and over again. And so that is a huge barrier that still exists. And kind of the other side of it, and female leaders, one of the biggest barriers based on research is confidence. Female leaders struggle with more confidence than their male counterparts. And so I understand why people feel this way. I feel very fortunate. That's not a struggle that I have, but my husband and I just purchased our second location. And as soon as my husband walks into any negotiation, any meeting, anything, they assume that my husband owns my company. They ask him and they direct all of the questions to him. They have him sign the lines, and it's my company. He doesn't own any percentage of it. And so those still exist. Those are definitely barriers when it comes to female leadership. And so I had to grow it from the ground up. I got nobody that would give me money. And thankfully we did. And now we have the money to build and purchase the next location. And then one day I'm going to be able to get private equity and bring the female statistics up. But that's a barrier.
Mine, I think I mentioned that I'm in a woman-dominant field. So for me, that's in the state. So for what I do for cities as a Main Street director, but I'm also in politics. So I'm in city government, which is often more male dominant. So I would say that my aspirations within the city of maybe moving up, one day being city manager in 20 years, I've already had people tell me, oh, I don't think the city's ready for a female, like to my face, a female city manager. And I'm like, oh, okay. I know I'm young now, but this could be possible. So I think just having the confidence to say, okay, well, that's what you think now, and I can still strive for what my goals are in long term.
Definitely. I think anytime you start something new or switch fields, you're littered with self-doubt, and I'm definitely guilty of that. Having tried something new 5 years ago, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm 100% secure right now. I still have fear of failure, fear of succeeding, fear of not being taken seriously, all of those things. But I know that the work I'm putting in eventually will convert, will translate, and along the line, I will build the confidence necessary to kind of suppress all those things. But I do think that that's, like you said, one of the barriers is just self-doubt.
So I feel like we have to touch a little bit on COVID because it has definitely impacted the workplace. So are there any challenges that women face because of COVID, and then navigating post-COVID? How does that kind of look or impact you guys? If there's anything you can talk about that way.
So women have definitely been impacted by COVID more especially if you have a family. I don't know how many people in the room have kids, but that has probably been the biggest struggle for female leaders is post-COVID and the childcare situation. I call it invisible burdens, and women, we just have more of those on us. We're constantly the ones thinking about what is the kid gonna eat, how is the kid gonna get to school, where are they gonna pick up. My husband, like I have to just tell him and then he knows, but he doesn't think about it all the time the way women do. So I think that for COVID has really kind of been one of the big changes, especially when we were doing, daycares were shut down or virtual learning or all of those different things. So I think that's the biggest barrier or biggest challenge. I don't think that I have a solution for that, but hopefully we're getting through this pandemic. In my industry and wellness, it's actually been a great thing because so many people now want to know their vitamin D levels. They want to know their inflammatory markers. They want to get themselves healthier. And so we have a new kind of mindset around what does it mean to be healthy. So it's been good from a business perspective.
Same. COVID did not impact me professionally very much at all. Lockerly closed for just under a month, but the community outcry of people looking for fresh open spaces to go to convinced us we needed to reopen. So we created a rotating staff schedule so that there was a staff person on site each day, but we stayed open. But listening to some of my friends, my female friends, there are definitely roles that are shifting for women as a result of COVID, proving that they can achieve the same deliverables in new circumstances, and creating that new norm for themselves and being brave enough to create that new norm for themselves.
For me, I was starting to grow my client list in my social media management space, and then when COVID hit, I think the uncertainty with small businesses in particular affected their ability, their bottom line, their marketing dollars. So I didn't see a lot of growth. We're starting to see a little bit of an uptake there too, but I did mention earlier that flexibility is really important to me. So in my personal life, I was able to kind of maneuver around that, but my kids did come with me to dozens of photo shoots last year. So they were wondering what I do all day when they're in school, and after a year, they definitely know.
I don't think I have a great answer to this question. My husband actually got laid off from his job from the COVID pandemic. He worked at the Ritz-Carlton in Lake Oconee. So that hotel completely shut down. So he was home for 3 months when they were out of school and during the summer. And so it kind of worked out for us because I still went to work. The city didn't completely shut down except for a few weeks. So, I don't have much to say, but I would say the women that I do know, it affected them mainly with families and trying to figure out childcare, as was mentioned.
How do you overcome overwhelming feelings, stress, imposter syndrome, etc., in the workplace?
I would definitely say learning to say no. I, for a long time, thought that I had to agree to everything. I had to be on every board that I was offered. And then that would just make me completely stressed out. I used to work after 5 all the time. And, not that it doesn't happen anymore, but, that's something that I've learned to just stop when I know that I'm getting overwhelmed. And I definitely learning to say no. Obviously, saying yes to good experiences, as you mentioned before, is positive. But when you just know that you have too much and it's one of those, someone asks you to do something and you're like, okay, sure. Learn how at that moment to say, let me think about it, and then really evaluate if it's possible for you, and don't allow that to stress you out. And then the other thing for me would be take time for yourself and make sure that you have something that allows you to have an outlet for what you need, whether that be yoga or walking or running or art, anything like that.
I definitely agree. I'm like, if your gut says no, go with no, But I do think, when the universe is giving you signs, you got to read them. But as someone, I think I'm going to go on a leap here and say I spend a lot more time on social media than all of you. I manage about a dozen Instagram accounts. I would say that when it comes to stress in the workplace, be careful what you're looking at. I tell my clients, my friends, my family, if it doesn't entertain, inspire, or educate you, get rid of it. Very simple formula. What you see is what you think is what you feel. And just clean it up every month. You know, it can always be cleaned. So I think if you're ever feeling that someone else is doing something you're not, something else is happening that you're not a part of, someone else's life is better than yours, it's got to go.
Can I get that tattooed on my forehead, please? Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's awesome. For me, it's don't be afraid to ask for help. And although we all want to achieve our goals, on some level, you have to learn to just not take yourself too seriously. You know, just learn to laugh at yourself. I'm director of a 50-acre arboretum, and I don't know an ash tree from an elm tree. I'm sure my staff keep a list of all the stupid plant questions I ask, but you roll with it. And you just, don't be afraid to ask for help. And also what Carly was saying about carve out time for, and I use the term broadly, exercise, whatever that means for you, whether it's moving your body or moving your mind in a different way. But you've got to have that dedicated time to shut down and adjust your perspective.
When I first opened STAT, I felt like training somebody to do some of the tasks I did took too much time. And so I just need to keep doing it. And so I kept doing everything. And that is not how you grow a successful business. And so asking for help, that was one of the big things for me. Overcoming stress, the best way to do that is to delegate and to trust your team. Like, they are going to do well. So delegating is huge. The other big thing, and it kind of goes off what all of them are saying, is like every single person has a threshold, right, of how much we can tolerate. And that is not just work. So it's not overcoming stress at work. It's what's going on in our home life. It's what's going on with our friends. It's what's going on with our extended family. And so I always encourage everybody I talk with is really kind of figure out where the stress is stemming from, because sometimes it's places you don't know, and sometimes it's outside of your control. So an exercise that I do that's really helpful is when I feel really stressed, I write down every single thing that's stressing me out, and then I draw a line through all the things that I can't control. So if it's COVID, if it's politics, if it's whatever it is, I draw lines. I don't have control over those, and then I circle the ones I do have control over, and then I'm a very actionable person, so then I write out, here's 3 things I can do to help manage that stress. And for me, that's super helpful because it refocuses on what I have control. So I'd encourage you to try that. And then as far as imposter syndrome, the second part of that, I think every single person has a degree of imposter syndrome. And so I think there's actually nothing wrong with having imposter syndrome. It's going to keep you on your toes and keep you performing your best. Because if you thought you knew it all and you were the best person in the room, like, you've hit your ceiling and you have no room for growth, because there's all things we don't know. So imposter syndrome, that feeling is good. You're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. You're growing as a human, as a leader. So embrace that and just know that you're capable of more than you think you are.
Awesome. In your roles, how do you influence others and affect change?
When I think about influence, I think it's rooted in trust and in consistency. I think about the year before COVID hit, my daughter had 4 different teacher over the school year in one classroom. And I don't think she learned anything that year. And I think part of it, and I kind of like extrapolated like a life lesson from there, but I think you have to show up every day for someone for a long time for them to believe that you'll be there tomorrow. And I felt like in that classroom with those kids, they didn't have that. And I felt like there was just a lack of trust in the system, in the school, in that classroom, and that was fine. But like I said, when I extrapolated that into my work, I don't think people believe you the first time you say it. The second time you say it, they will watch you do it day after day, week after week, month after month, and then 5 years down the road, they'll say, hey, don't you have your own company? Isn't this what you do? And I'm like, this is what I've been doing, But I think it takes time. It takes a certain level of authenticity, consistency you have to earn that trust. And after you have that trust, then you can begin to entertain the idea of influence.
As a career nonprofit employee, that's what nonprofits do. We affect change. We fill an unmet need in society. So I was really glad to get this question and kind of put down into words what nonprofits do. But breaking it down to an individual level, the first thing is to get perspective. And a lot of people call it getting on the balcony. So you have to take yourself off the dance floor and out of the crazy and get up on the balcony so you can have a big picture of what's happening. And then for affecting change, you need to determine if what you're changing is if you're trying to change processes or values. Processes are easy to change. If you're trying to shift someone's values, that's a whole different ball of wax. Don't ever try to go it alone when you're trying to affect change. Find partners and nurture your networks. And then communication, creating a safe space for open communication is crucial, and everything else will fall from there.
I think I learned what not to do by some of my previous jobs. Some of my previous leaders were very fear-based leaders, and so when their team started to become really successful and really grow, they felt very threatened, and they didn't like that. And I have learned that's not the kind of leader I want to be, and so the way I look at influencing change is my goal as a leader is to grow my team and make them the best version of themselves. And if that is inside of stat, long term, like that's amazing. But if they need something because they've grown outside of a position I can offer them, that's also amazing. So I don't have non-competes. I don't have anything like that. I have nobody chained to our business. Like I want what is best for them. And so in order, I feel like, to influence change, you have to really be invested and have empathy for your employees. And so for me, what a lot of that looks like is meeting with them regularly, putting myself in their position, and also we're a small startup, so we all do everything. Like they don't feel like there's anybody that's superior to them. Like I take out trash, somebody else may take out trash. And so I think in order to influence change and kind of help grow your team, you have to listen to them, you have to have empathy, and you have to want what's best for them, maybe not what is best for the company always. And you have to kind of marry those two. But I think fear-based leadership, and I hope one day I can grow a team where I'm the dumbest one in the room. That would be my goal.
Those are all very great. What is one thing you love about your current career or role as a leader, and one thing you would change if you could?
I love my job. My job is my dream job. I feel like every job that I have had since the moment I graduated from Georgia College has been preparing me for this job. So yeah, I have no complaints, no questions. The only thing I want is more visitors, more staff, more everything. I just want more. So yeah.
So as an entrepreneur and business owner, I feel like I have to love what I do because I created it. And I'm constantly changing it to create it. So I do love what I do as well. I love the business we've created. I love that now we have 20 employees, second locations, and growing quickly. I think one of the things that's the toughest, it's not what I don't like about my job, but it is one of the toughest things, is I am a full-time provider. So I meet with 40 patients a week, and I'm a full-time CEO, and there's only 24 hours in a day. So I'm managing what is now, starting in January, 26 employees, plus my 1,500 patients. So I think the biggest thing would just be time is the biggest struggle, but I love every area of it. But I'm one person.
My thing is that for my position, it's always something different, and we get to try and make our town better. So I love this place, and I think just trying to do what's best for our community and make people more people love it here as well is huge for me. And then we can always come up with new ideas and implement them. So it's just fun. It's kind of my dream job too. When I went to school for marketing, and when I got out of school and all of the jobs were sales jobs, I was really confused. Like, I didn't want to be a salesperson. I'm actually internally really shy. This job has helped me to come out of that. But so when I found this job, it marries that marketing degree and allows me to do something fun and not sales, because I'm not a pushy. I'm just not a salesperson anyways. But anyway, the other thing I would not like is just how I mentioned is the bias from some of the leadership or counterparts, even people that are department heads like myself, that are men, treat me like I'm a child. I'm also one of the youngest in the city, but that can get really frustrating, and I just don't like that.
I have mentioned before that I really appreciate the flexibility that comes along with the job that I've created, but then on the flip side, I am overly connected. I tell my kids not to look at their screens all day long when I'm looking at my screen all day long, and that has its own challenges. But I do love what I've done, what I do, and I do actually think very fondly back on my years getting my MBA at Georgia College. I did political science as an undergraduate, and I think getting that exposure to accounting and business communication and economics and just the variety of subject that comes in that MBA curriculum really kind of set me up with the confidence and the tools to create my own LLC and go to a meeting and meet people and know how to properly network. And so I really do think a lot about how Georgia College, at the time, I wasn't doing that in 2007, but here we are in 2020, and it still managed to convert.
Great. And this is our last question, and that is, what advice would you give to the next generation of females?
I'll go ahead and start. Number one, I do this in my daily life, practice gratitude daily. And I already told, I'm sorry, I already told you I come from a big family of women, but I always tell them you're on the winning team.
The generation that's coming through now, I am so impressed with them. The Carolines and the Jills, they are some of the bravest young women I've ever seen. They're not afraid of anything. They're not afraid to take on big, really big challenges that are potentially, bigger than them. But if they fail, they fail. If they succeed, they succeed. They're not afraid of anything. You guys are awesome. So in my opinion, my advice is keep it up. But on the flip side of that, don't be afraid to fail. Failing is not a bad thing. Getting fired from a job is not a horrible thing. It can be the best thing that ever happened to you. So just don't be afraid and keep up the awesome work.
I was going to say the same thing, is don't let no stop you, because you will get a lot of no's in your life, and it's never a stopping point. And then also, figure out what it looks like for you to be confident. Like, who is that person? And for some people, it's writing a positive quote on their mirror. For some people, it's that, person that picks them up when they're feeling down that they know is going to tell them inspiration. But we need to be confident as women. We need to support each other as women. It's not a competition. I know this has come up already, but I think if all of us in the next generation can support one another and walk through life with confidence, like, the future is female. I'm having 2 daughters, so future is female.
I had to be confident, so I think that's one of the biggest things, and encourage other women to do what they want to do and be happy, and encourage and not put down. I like that you're on the winning team. We are a team, so just act or behave that way.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies. That does wrap up the panel, but I did want to just open the floor up to our attendants and anybody on Zoom. If you all have anything that you would like, to discuss or just contribute, this is just kind of an open dialogue time. We can pass the mics around. If there was something that they said that you wanted to comment on, or just kind of give your answer to the question, we would like to do that now. So if anybody wants, you don't have to, but okay, we're all shy. Well, I will close it out then. I just want to thank our panelists for such an amazing job. Thank you truly for being here. Let's give them a round of applause. And thank you all again for your time and participation and just taking time out of your day to join us and just be part of this event. We're so grateful for each and every one of you, and we just look forward to the next event that we're able to have. As a reminder, please fill out the voting form that you guys will receive in your email today. And then also we want to let everyone know to save the date for the annual Women's Leadership Conference. That's going to be March 4th. And then please let Jennifer or me know if you have any interest in being part of this conference as a volunteer. We would love to obviously have you guys attend, but if you want to be a volunteer, moderate a session, or if you have any interest in even leading a session, there's going to be a proposal form that goes out. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll make sure we send our members and everybody in this group. We'll make sure all the emails you get from me, we'll make sure that we include in that. So yeah, we'll keep everyone up to date on all of our future events. And then I just can't thank you guys enough for being here. So have a great rest of your evening. Eat some more food, please. And be sure to grab one of those little snack bags on your way out. Those are for you guys to take. So yeah, thank you guys.